Everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are once again back in the car, which means that we saw yet another movie, and we're giving you guys a new review. I decided to just kind of give you guys a double feature because YouTube was being a little weird with its uploading, and it got stalled. So there's a film I was like, it's kind of roughly interesting, so maybe I'll just go ahead and check it out for $5. No big deal. But once again, I'm not joined by my human counterpart, DJ, so I'm joined once again by the ever-popular, ever-famous, unlimited popcorn bucket. Say hi, popcorn bucket. Popcorn bucket. Hello. I thought his Dr. Pepper smelled a little funny. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and give you guys the review. So the film that I saw this evening was the holiday horror spoof film, It's a Wonderful Knife. So if you guys kind of catch its drift, It's a Wonderful Knife is a slasher parody thriller based off of roughly the idea behind It's a Wonderful Life. The big stars behind it are Justin Long from Jeepers Creepers, Dodgeball, Taxi. He was really big for a long time, and they kind of dropped off the face of the earth. So he's like the big star behind it, and then there's also the guy from, I think it was Community. He was on Community for a long time, and then a bunch of newcomers, obviously. So the premise of the story is that a small town gets terrorized on Christmas Eve by a masked serial killer. That masked serial killer goes by like the moniker of Angel because he looks exactly like the angel on top of the tree in the town square. And one Christmas he goes and he kills 3 people. He tries to attempt to kill a couple more and ends up getting thwarted by our main character and her brother, who kill him and unmask him to be actually the town's mayor, Justin Long. This isn't spoilers because this is actually just in the trailer. And so a year later, things are not going well because the murder victims were her best friend, her best friend, and a couple other things in her life are just not going well. Her family seems to be pushing her away and being like, hey, you're being too dramatic. You gotta get over the fact that this happened a year ago. Let's have Christmas. Let's just try to be normal. Why are you grieving so hard? She just got rejected from school, and so she goes out onto a pier and wishes that she had never been born. Well, actually, she doesn't even wish it. She just states that she believes that the town and everybody would be better off if she had never existed. And so the Northern Lights are in the town, and they surround her, and they take her to an alternate reality where she actually just never existed. She'd never been born, and the entire town has been taken over by serial killer, the Angel, who has been on a spree not just last Christmas and this Christmas, but has been killing every few weeks since the Christmas before. And the mayor's taken over the entire town. Overall, the premise of the film was intriguing. It was kind of interesting, and also it was by guys who had something to do with Freaky, which I really liked the film Freaky. Just the premise was fun. They executed it really well, and overall it was just a fun story. Freaky kind of has this similar vibe where it's taking the lore behind Freaky Friday and they put it into her body switching happens with a serial killer. Amazing story. I actually really enjoy that film a lot. So seeing that it was kind of roughly a similar vein and it had some people from that project associated with it, I think it was just the producers. But anyway, I decided to give it a go. Now, since I've taken 4.5 minutes to do a synopsis and things like that, what is my rating out of 10? I have to give this film a 4. It actually is just bad enough. It has just enough issues in it that I have to say that I didn't feel neutral about it, and I actually kind of didn't like it at all. Like, not at all. There's redeeming qualities to it. There's fun things to it, and I'll get to that kind of more in spoilers. But overall, this film is a 4 out of 10. It has a lot of things lacking in it. The acting performances are okay. Some of the characters are relatively believable. The premise is strong, but all of the story that goes along with this premise isn't extremely strong. It has decent graphics, it has decent visuals and things like that. But overall, the film really just struggles. It floats, and it just has really odd things that it clings onto that don't really benefit from the film. There's fun aspects of it, but overall, I have to give it a 4 out of 10. I actually didn't really enjoy it. I probably would not see it again. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't recommend this film. I think that there's plenty of other films that have a better story and are more interesting as horror films, even if they're Christmas-themed horror films. I think that that's a genre that needs to be taken up a little bit more, and I like the fact that they're taking these large premises and classic premises from different movies and making like spin-offs of them in the horror genre. I think that's just a really cool and fun idea. This film just doesn't seem to get it. So I'll just open it up, though, to spoilers, and I should be done with this hopefully relatively soon. I know I say that, it doesn't happen. I'm going to try. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. So, her family at the beginning of the film are really just awful. They're jerks. And it's not really even a thing of, like, she would wish that she didn't exist. If I'm being honest, like, taking a look at the way that her family treats her, I wouldn't be like, well, I just wish I never existed. I'd be looking at it more along the lines of, I wish I was in a different family. If I'm just being entirely honest, this girl saved a bunch of lives and killed the killer that was going on a killing spree and exposed a corruption scheme that went all the way to the mayor's office. How does her family reward her? By treating her awfully. Awful. Her family is awful. The only person who's redeeming at all is probably the aunt. The brother seems to be kind of a sympathetic character, but it really kind of falls in line with this idea of he's this golden child and he doesn't really seem to realize it, but he kind of gets all of these benefits and it's like, oh, but it trickles down. It'll trickle down to you. It's kind of how it feels. Her dad is a horrible human being. Her mom is not great either. This girl's best friend was not only killed, she was murdered, slashed, bloodied, stabbed, slashed, cut open, slaughtered in front of her a year ago on Christmas at a Christmas party. And a year later, the family's like, hey, you just need to get over it. You just need to get over it. I don't understand why you're so mad that your only friend is dead. And then on top of all of this grief, they open a present. Every single person opens a present on Christmas Eve. And it's supposed to be something that is nice. It's supposed to be something kind of nice to go forward. And the dad, who's just dad of the year, gets her an out-of-date velvet jumpsuit. Pink velvet jumpsuit. To talk about the fact that she needs to lose weight. Because he actually makes, like, the mom makes a comment of, well, it's stuff that we need. It's stuff that you need. So it's like, and this girl's like thin as a twig. Anyway. She gets this jumpsuit, a really ugly, out-of-date velvet jumpsuit. And the brother gets a brand new GMC Sierra. And we're supposed to believe at the end of the film that this family is actually really great and she belongs in this family and the family treats her well. Her family are just dicks. So that's just off-putting immediately. What are some other things about this film? So, in this new world, the mayor's taking over everything, and he builds this giant utopia things and things like that. And it just, the story really is lacking. It's not. It has some jump scares. It has some elements of thrill and suspense and stuff like that. But if I'm just being honest, the majority of this film, like I said, just doesn't really have a lot to ground itself on, and it flounders. It points out the fact that It's a Wonderful Life is a thing in the universe, and points out the fact that the characters are aware of the fact that she's going through a similar thing to It's a Wonderful Life, where she's the main character and the other girl that she talks to is supposed to be like the Clarence. But it doesn't really make sense because Clarence leads the character through everything and talks about everything that has to do with the person's life. This girl, it's very confusing, especially at the end, what her role really was and why the wish worked out the way that it did, because it seems like the only person who really truly benefited from it was her friend Bernice, who they call Weirdo the entire time. So the main character's name is Winnie, and so it's Winnie and Bernice. Or Bernie, I think. I think they call her Bernie, but it's Bernice. Yeah, the only person who really benefits at the end of the film is Bernice, because Bernice gets noticed, she gets a good friend, and she gets a girlfriend at the end of it. That's like, she's the only person who benefits, but she didn't make the wish, she didn't make the statement. It's not really quite clear why Winnie was sent back at all. They kind of point at things and they seem to like try to make it make sense, but very quickly, very weakly, they spend a lot of time on other things that just aren't as important to the story. Yeah, like, there's certain aspects to it where it's like the mayor is literally hypnotizing the town and they're all drones, and at the end of the film they're all hypnotized and they don't really care that he's literally doing like a public execution of people that disagree with him. That was weird. That's not explained. Why does this guy have magical powers? Magic powers. But it just never explain stuff like that. The only thing that has to do with It's a Wonderful Life is that the main character didn't exist due to a wish, even though it's not even a wish. Like, that's what bothers me too. It's like, she's not wishing, it's like, I wish I was never born kind of thing. It's literally a thing of, she just says in passing, oh, I really, like, what's the point? Why am I here? I wonder what would happen if I didn't exist. And then she lives in an entire reality where she doesn't exist, but the person who benefits the most from this wish is Bernice, who is a side character. She's not even impacted by the killer, it doesn't seem. There's nothing there. And then there's no real great moral of the story. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, the weird girl that you know, that is weird, she might be interesting. And she deserves people to pay attention to her, and she might be a little offy. Self-offy. So maybe pay attention to them and talk to them. They might be interesting and share similar values and interests, even though you never bothered to ask her in the first place anyway. And then, oh, who knows, maybe you'll end up in a fiery, passionate lesbian love story. Is that the moral of the story? Is that really what she was meant to learn and find out? It's just odd. This film has so many odd choices that doesn't really make sense. Praises, though, for this film. Things that I actually really enjoyed. The character costume design for the angel, really well done. Like pure white, mask that has no eye holes and things like that. Just a really clean, simple, but equally terrifying design. It's fun. It's a fun design. Costume designs are overall pretty good. You can kind of tell a bit about each character by going through it. And the set designs are pretty interesting too. they seem to have taken a lot of time with the transitionary shots, which is appreciative. Like, you can really tell when the town is, you know, how it's supposed to be versus how it's not. There's a lot of different little color accents and things like that, whereas the other town is full of blues and grays, and it feels depressing and dead and off, when it's the exact same town dressed in a very similar manner, but it's just off enough that you're like, oh, okay, this is like an actual really awful town. What else can I praise it for? There's really creative shot. So positive, negative. Positive, they use like flash photography as like scene shooting, which is really cool actually, the way that they do it, because it's literally, they're in a dark movie theater and one of the characters has a camera and she's using the camera's flash to see where she's going to run away from the killer, and it shows the killer like tackling certain people and slashing and running after Winnie, the main character, and it's all just flashes and noise, and it was just, that was such a cool idea. Very unique. There's another scene that has a whole bunch of flashing in it that I'm surprised this film didn't have a seizure warning, because it was awful. It was so many flashing lights that even I was just kind of like, because you're sitting in a dark theater and just boom, 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 boom. You're just like, what's going on? Awful. So it's like, lighting was amazing ideas and really cool execution, and then it was just like, what the heck? Anyway, the film also really struggles in the beginning with introducing each of the characters. It doesn't understand how to introduce characters in a horror setting, where each character has to have like certain little traits and stuff that are talked about it. And so it's like the middle of the year, it's like right in the middle of winter break, and for a high school class, and they go to a party, and you get introduced to all of the characters, and all the characters have like 3 sentences that explain who they are, what they're interested in, who they got the hots for, what they're doing in school, kind of thing. And so it establishes this character, and it's like 10 minutes of the film is just setting up each of these characters. And the thing is, like, if it's 1 or 2 people, sure, okay, yeah, no problem, but it's an entire cast of characters. It's like 8, 9, 10 characters, and they're all taking sentences to explain who they are, what they're into, where they're going, what's their aspirations, kind of thing. So it's just awful. It doesn't introduce all the characters well enough, and it doesn't do it in a way that is really well done. In horror films, like, it can be so much better done if you have a large amount of characters to explain like who each of the characters is. One of the obviously like clear examples of this would be like Scream, where they're talking about like what's happened and a little bit about little aspects of themselves that are kind of integral and interesting to the story, while introducing the characters in a way that their voices come out to explain who they are. This film doesn't do that. This film suffers from classic TV first season. Oh, well, as you know, I'm a member of the yearbook, and I use my photo shooting with the yearbook, which is why I carry around a camera all the time, so that I can get into NYU, because I'm interested in artsy craftsy things. This is my brother who is gay, and the family doesn't know how to deal with a gay family member, even though my dad's sister has been openly gay and has a wife who's a major part of our family. That's another thing too. It doesn't make sense, because it's like the dad whose sister is gay doesn't understand how to deal with his son who also is gay, and it's going to be interesting if there's ever a sequel. I hope to God not, but if there's a sequel, he's going to have to deal with the fact that his daughter also is gay. It must just be something in the water in this town. But it's like, it's weird. It doesn't make sense. Like, all the characters are isolated from their actual lives, other than a couple of key points to make the story go forward. The other thing is that it offers a lot of information about these characters that don't matter, and it never comes up again. It doesn't really matter. So that's another thing too. It's really sloppy writing. It's really poorly written. It moves along. It has a general idea, and it does nothing to build off of that general idea other than sending her into another reality that just doesn't matter. So yeah, it's not good filmmaking. It has bright spots. It has some interesting spots, but overall, not a recommend. Not a good film. 4 out of 10. I have bothered you guys long enough. But if you think that I haven't bothered you guys long enough, guess what? Good news for you guys. We come out with 2 videos every week. We do new reviews every weekend, and we also do different videos and stuff like that related to classic films, bad films, and just film-related things in general. We're going into the new year, and we might even start throwing in some things of our own, because we are kind of aspiring story writers, creators, and maybe even possibly filmmakers at some point, should we ever be able to afford it. Anyway. If you like that stuff, be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications so that you never miss one of our episodes. Otherwise, like this video if you like this review, or if you like this film. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and of course, we will see you guys, hopefully, in the next video. Thanks for watching.